Hey guys, welcome to Kiki Scape. My name's Kiki, and this is my scape. So, the topic for today's video is medical misconception. This is my personal experience. You may not have gone through, you may not go through what I have gone through, but I just want to let you know what you can look out for. Medical misconception number one: your grades are the only thing that matter. I cannot express to you how many times I have heard this statement, and usually I hear this statement from people who have never been to medical school and have never stepped foot in a medical school. Your grades aren't the only thing that matter. I am here to tell you, to preach to you that they are not the only things that matter. Your health, your well-being, you come first. You supersede everything, okay? Your grades are secondary, and I know it's hard to understand. I know it's hard to say, boy, how my grades them for come second to my well-being, because if your well-being is off, so will your grades. If your health is off, your mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, financial health, any aspect of your life that is off will affect your grades, unless you're the type of person to ignore your problems completely and just focus on the task at hand. Eventually, even so, eventually it will catch up to you and it will affect your grades. Take care of yourself first. You come first. You hear me? You come first. Don't ever let anybody tell you that your grades are more important than your well-being. They are not. Because if you die today, your grades mean absolutely nothing. You know what go on if you're dead? Them replace you with an next school fee. And that's go on. And that, and that go reach you. So before it even reach that point, take care of yourself. Here. So another misconception I'm always hearing is that everybody is in competition with each other. It may not be a misconception. It may be true. It's possibly true. Alright, it's true. Zine,
No, you're right.
but here's the thing: you're in competition with yourself. That's the part that they leave off. You're in competition with yourself. Your grades are your biggest competition. If you got a B this time, your next aim should be a B plus or an A or an A plus. That is what you're competing against: yourself. You're not competing against her. She got a B, you got a B plus, so okay, I'm better than her, and you settle for the B, because that's what happens. Once you realize that you're better than somebody, you settle for the grade that you have, and that's not what should happen. You should always be competing to get better, because you're competing against yourself. You're always competing to be the best version of yourself. If you're competing against others, you're just trying to be better than them, when you should be aiming to be better than yourself, better than the version of the person that you are right now. Be better than that person, because you don't know if I buck up, this money buck up and get for them A. You don't know. You don't know how much work they put in to get their A, right? You don't know if they cheated for their A. You don't know. So your competition is yourself. Your work ethics, your grades, that is your competition. You're competing against procrastination. You're competing against laziness. That is your competition. You are your biggest competitor. I'm here to tell you, you're competing against yourself. So another misconception I'm always getting to, like, if I had $1 for every time I was told that there is no true teamwork, your classmates don't care about you, your classmates are your enemies. Your classmates are not your enemies. And I don't want to disregard anyone's experience. So maybe for you, your classmates were your enemies. Maybe in your year, in your semester, you and your classmates, y'all did not have any teamwork at all. I don't want to disregard your experience. So this is a personal experience. I did not experience that at all. I thought I was going to. I went into med school with the idea in my head that no one was my friend. Everyone was going to try to sabotage me. Everyone was just out there to eat, and growl at you and get you. Like, that really wasn't how it was. Like, I was so surprised when my classmates would be like, oh guys, there's a test coming up, let's make a Kahoot and study. Oh guys, let's have an accountability buddies where we would hold each other accountable and make sure everyone was studying on a Google Meet, where we'd just be doing something productive. We didn't have to study together, we didn't have to study the same thing, but we're always being productive in our accountability buddies. And we had that every single day, and it was left open for us from I think 7 p.m. until the next day. And we just always were doing things together. If we came across resources, we would share it with each other. I've come across so many things on Instagram, and I would just share it with my classmates, and they would do the same. If they came across a website that they saw was useful, if they came across a question back, anything that they came across, they would share with the class. And because they did that, I felt really, really comfortable doing the same thing. Like, it was so scary for me at first. I'm like, you know what? I'm not sharing anything with them. I'm gonna do well on my own. And that's because of what I was always getting told. Like, your classmates are your enemies, your classmates are not here to be your friends. I mean, they don't need to be your friends, but my classmates were very sharing, they were very caring, and they absolutely believe that no man should be left behind. And on that note, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know down below if you have any misconceptions that you think I missed, and I'll just add them to a part two. If you want me to do a part two, let me know down below. A lot of people, like, from listening to them, you would think that med school was this crab in a barrel mentality type of thing, when really it wasn't. Well, not for me at least. Like, it wasn't. Everyone was sharing. Everyone believed in each other. Everyone was encouraging each other. There was a thing where we were so depressed after an anatomy exam, and one of our classmates is like, guys, let's just have 1 hour today where we just do something with whatever we enjoy. And we did it, and then we came to the class group, we told what we did, and it was just this really fun, loving kind of family experience. I mean, you don't, the minute you go into med school believing that you are on your own, you will behave that way. Because I did at first, and it took me a while to warm up to my classmates, to warm up to the thought that, wow, these people were really sharing, wow, these people really care about you. It really took me a time, and I'm happy that I learned this on my own. I'm happy that the videos that I watched weren't as accurate as I was acting that they were. Maybe they were accurate for them because they're speaking of their own experience. So I'm telling you about mine. So another misconception I'm always getting told, and I'm absolutely tired of hearing, is being number one in the class is all that matters. I'm here to tell you today that it is not. Not everyone will be number one. And if it is you, absolutely lovely. If it's not, fine. Like, that doesn't take away from the amazing physician that you are. It really doesn't. Being number one in the class doesn't even mean that you're the best. You're probably best at regurgitating the information. I'm not taking away from those that are great physicians that were number one in the class. I'm just saying it's not always the case. You're not always the best. You're not always truly the best. Being number one isn't a true representation of who a good physician will be. I've seen numerous physicians be number one in the class, and they were complete nonsense in the hospital. The patients don't like going to them. Patients don't like talking. Like, it doesn't mean you're the best. Okay, you could graduate at the bottom of your class, at the bottom, the absolute bottom. And I need to tell you today, being at the bottom of your class doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't. You cannot fail and graduate med school, and I need you to understand that. So being at the bottom of the class, if everybody gets a 99 in the class and your last name is a Z, you're gonna be at the bottom. So it doesn't mean that you're not a great physician. And when you go into the hospital, no one cares what position you were in the class. Nobody's gonna ask you, doctor, what grade did you get again? What position were you in your class? No one is gonna ask that. No one really cares. Just you. No one really cares about what position you were in your class. Maybe for a placement in the hospital, but that's really just it. It doesn't take away from the amazing person that you are. It doesn't take away from the physician that you are. It doesn't mean you won't do your job correctly. It's just a placement. It's just a number, honestly. Being number one in the class isn't all that matters. If you do, amazing for you. If not, don't beat yourself up about it. It doesn't take away from you who you are. Don't let a placement disregard you. Don't. because it shouldn't have that much power over you. Another misconception that even I am guilty of practicing is just pass the class. Now, while passing the class is nice, you want to get it out of the way, you don't want to do it again, you don't have to deal with it again. You'll understand that a lot of the courses that you do are prerequisite courses. And so, for you to understand the next step, you need to understand what you just did. A lot of my exams were clinically based questions. So, if I didn't understand the information being set before me, I wouldn't be able to understand the question, because you have to be able to apply the information that you learn. It's more than just knowing what this is and what that is. You have to understand the mechanisms behind it. You have to understand the topic completely. Once you understand it, you can move on. Passing the class is nice. You just want to get it out of the way. You don't have to deal with it again. But what happens when you move on? You can't afford to fail that class, because then it wouldn't make sense. How are you failing this class but you passed the one before? And it's basically just adding on the information. You need to understand what just took place. You need to understand what is in front of you, even if it means retaking the course. You need to ensure that you understand the information so that when you move on, it doesn't cause complications later on. Another misconception for us today is medical school isn't hard. Just study. How many times have you heard this statement? It's like, wow, why didn't I think of that?
My goodness, what an idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Like, how insensitive. I mean, you probably don't mean for it to come off insensitive, but it is insensitive, because then you're just suggesting that I don't already study. Medical school is hard. It's not impossible, but it is hard. And you don't, I mean, maybe they just don't want you to create excuses for yourself as to why you're not doing well. It is hard, but it is not impossible to pass. There are a lot of stuff you need to know, and not a lot of stuff you need to learn. A lot of stuff you need to understand. A lot of stuff you need to memorize. You can't understand them. You just need to memorize these things. It is a lot, but it is not impossible. That is what I'm here to tell you. So maybe they're saying it's not hard, and you take it as them saying it's easy, because I mean that's what their tone is implying. It's not easy. It is hard, but it is not impossible. It is something that you can pass. It is something that you can do well, and others have done it before. You can do it. They aren't better than you. Keep telling yourself, you know what, they've done it, so can I. Now, this misconception I actually heard from a classmate of mine, and it made me extremely sad to hear her say, because she felt like she just didn't belong in the class anymore. And her misconception was that medical school is only for the smartest of the smart. Now, for other universities, that may be true, but not for mine. Like, other universities, they only accept the 3.7 and the 4.0. I'm sorry, but I understand why it is that way, because medical school is very hard to get into. It's very competitive to get into. But it really shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be just for the smartest of the smart, because sometimes the smartest of the smart aren't even really that good. They're just smart on paper. You give them a book, they can memorize it. And that brings me to an earlier point about being number one. They probably just can regurgitate the information, but they really aren't that good when you put them in a clinical situation. But apply. Even if you feel like your grades aren't enough for medical school, if you get a rejection letter, just accept it and go do what you have to do from there on out. But apply, because there are so many people in power that aren't qualified to be in power. Apply. Now, for our last misconception of today, say goodbye to your social life. Now, that is entirely false. You can have a social life, but you just need to have balance. Everything in moderation. If one outweighs the other, it will negatively impact you. If you have more play than study, your grades will plummet. And if you have more study than play, then you already know you'll be Jack the dull boy. You want to have everything in balance. A part of medical school is knowing how to manage your time wisely. That is really, really key. You have to manage your time wisely. You have to schedule everything that you're doing. So if you know you're going on Instagram, I put a time limit on my phone, and once that time limit hits, I can't access the app anymore because I don't want to spend too much time on that app. And I actually got this idea from my close friend. It really saves you the time. You don't have to say goodbye to your social life, don't talk to anyone, don't have any friends or anything. It's just everything in moderation. You have to be responsible with your time and you have to hold yourself accountable for everything that you do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned how to manage your time wisely. I hope you understand the misconceptions of medical school. And I hope you have a great time in medical school. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends. Kiki out.